Ayo, what is up everyone? It is the Alpha J of the Alpha J Show, and today we're going to be talking about the amazing world of Gumball. I think the last time I talked about an episode in whole was my first Versus, which came out over 2 years ago. Time has passed. I've been very critical of Season 5 of Gumball a lot in my public Discord. I think not a lot of time is spent on the comedy, and it's more about making it more meta, more deep, more focused, on things outside of the core values that made Gumball work. And while this works for episodes like The Choices, it doesn't really strike gold in episodes such as The X. However, with this added layer of, the episode The Matchmaker has been created. Given that this is not the first time the show has made an episode about two people in love, The Matchmaker is a lot more surprising than The Shell in that regard. You see, anyone who watched Gumball knows that the roots for Gumball and Penny were planted quite early and quite heavy. Darwin, on the other hand, has had seeds planted for Tobias' sister Rachel, Masami, Jamie, and Carrie, so he was much more of a wild card in that regard. Ever since Halloween, the episode where Carrie and Darwin had an out-of-nowhere kiss, the question has always been tossed up. Why? Why has he always wanted to do that? Are the writers ever going to expand on that? They did. They really did here. Now, I know I'm giving a lot of praise to The Matchmaker early on. I know that The Shell is a great episode in its own regard, but my point is, The Shell was a good episode, The Matchmaker was a good surprise. So let's go into both episodes so I can show you why. Now, since The Shell came out first, I'm gonna start off with that. Before I begin, I want to shout out these comments here. I've been getting a lot of good comments recently, and a lot of people have been contributing to the conversation in a very productive way. So let's get into it. This episode starts off with a play that Gumball exaggerates his role in. We see that multiple families came out to see the show. However, the episode clearly shows the two main families that we will be focusing on. Darwin has stage fright, which for a fish, I totally understand. And we do get a few jokes along the way. Richard does this running gag where he explains the obvious for either comedic effect or non-comedic effect. Comedy's weird. Penny improvises and decides to kiss on stage in front of her family, his family, many other families, just people of Elmore in general.
Is this really happening? Because there was no kissing rehearsals. I kind of improvised. Then how come we're not exploding? We're in space. And why are we always in space when we're gonna kiss? Also,
there was always a slight element of slight awareness in Gumball. I never really understood the space aspect, but you won't hear me complaining about it. He goes for a kiss and rams her head with enough power to get a triple in Wii Sports Baseball. In fact, the kiss between these two have been teased in episodes back in Season 1, such as The Party. However, of course, you don't immediately give it away that Gumball and Penny have a real chance of being together. You tease it, and this clearly could have been another tease. Now, Gumball is showing tons of remorse, crying in a somewhat jarring, melted face. Now, I hope this is simple to spot. Gumball being in remorse while Penny is treating the situation lightly and forgiving him is what makes Gumball and Penny likable. Reversing the reactions, you can clearly see if Penny was crying and Gumball was treating the situation lightly, then the scene would have had a dramatic change in tone and Gumball would most likely look unlikable. And that's how Choir Boys fails. That's how Pet Sitter Pat fails. This is how The Sweater fails. So we see a crack in Penny's shell, which shows a snippet of what's inside. Now, I've heard some people think that there was a deer or doe inside of her shell, and to that I say, broaden your imagination. This is Elmore we're talking about, the amazing world of Gumball. This stuff in Elmore isn't always what it appears to be. Gumball asks what is in the shell, and of course, we don't know. At least not yet. So Penny walks home with Gumball and Darwin. I guess when you get hit in the face, your parents don't drive you home at night. We get more poking, we get more prodding at what's inside the shell. Penny says it's the real her. What that means, we'll find out later. They do argument warm-ups, which of course looks like another way when her father opens the door. I know there's another element and another layer in this episode, but I won't be discussing it here. Let's just say that it's out of my range. But let's not slow down and let's move into The Matchmaker. So before I go into this episode, I want to point out two things. Number one, the opening title card's music. The heart being a choice of Cupid, Cupid being love, setting up the inherent problem and theme of the episode. Number 2, this opening scene. Originally, I was gonna plan to go over this scene as something not important, but then I thought to myself, why would an open window be chosen for the beginning scene? Why not just go into the scene with Darwin and the computer? Well, I decided to take a shot at this. Ever since the episode Halloween, we saw Darwin and Carrie share a kiss, but after that, nothing more. With each and every episode, when Darwin and Carrie were in the same frame, nothing was shown, nothing was shared, heck, nothing was even implied. It left a question. What the heck was that scene in Halloween all about? And this is the open window, because that question has never been answered. The question is the open window, and in this episode, it will be shut. Then we get this song, which I wish I can play in its entirety, but fair use, and you can find it on YouTube. I'll let someone else deal with that. Darwin has the pipes in order to give this over-the-top sad song, or is it the right amount? I don't know, but it's perfect. The chorus is always what gets me anyway.
Why have you stopped playing that wonderful music?
The fact that the 3D water element fits perfectly with the fact that Darwin is a fish and is also crying makes this scene just spectacular. The fact that the chorus actually perfectly contradicts the fact that he's submerged in water, something he can live without and breathe, just wow. Also, there's black makeup which also adds to the over-the-top nature. Anyway, moving past that incredible song, so Gumball interrupts this song, that monster, and of course Darwin doesn't want to spill the beans to Gumball. Before we get a reference I'm pretty sure you know, we then get a scene with Gumball going on one of his signature tangents. However, this time it's a lot more bleak and depressing, which unfortunately lingers its realistic bleak tale around this season. Gumball reveals to Carrie that Darwin is in love with Terry, but doesn't know how to explain it.
I know! Weird, right? I thought he was into you, but nope, it's definitely Terry. There's photographic evidence if you want to see it. Look! 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 See? It's her! It's Terry! Look at it! Can you see? Look! 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 Look!
Hey, I thought my brother was into you. So did you. But he's not. He's not into you. He doesn't like you, Carrie. Don't you feel rejected? Want to die? Guess what? You can't. You're a ghost. My brother doesn't like you. My brother
And kids buy potions.
What do you mean?
You know, some kind of love potion that tricks you into thinking everyone is beautiful.
That sounds more like a mistake potion, and we need a fake ID to buy one.
Wow, that went right past the censors, didn't it? Wow, just... okay, alright. If it's fine with them, it's fine with me. Anyway, Gumball does want to help out his brother when it comes to this newfound love. We'll talk more about this after going back to the shell. As we come back over to the shell, we get this.
What's going on here? Penny, where were you? We were worried sick.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe she was at school. It might have helped to drive her home, you nutcase. Also, if you were worried sick, why didn't you go, I don't know, looking for her instead of waiting at your front door? So Penny shows her father the scar, and of course, he reacts in a way that's very shocked, very angry, and very hostile. I mean, that's his daughter. Gumball tries to stand up for Penny, probably only because of his curiosity and wanting to be in the right. It leads to quite a lot of jokes, but also a convincing argument that doesn't sacrifice too much wackiness in order to achieve its desired effect. I like the scene here where Gumball attempts to literally stand up to Patrick, Penny's father, with Darwin's help, but of course, that doesn't really work out well. We get this really nice shot of the family eating dinner. It almost looks something out of a 3D cartoon, and probably is, technically.
Nicole! Operation Greener Grass has failed! The chain is compromised! We are losing calories! Repeat, we are losing calories!
Now, Richard is an interesting case, because in Season 1's The Party, another episode showing Gumball and Penny, at the end, he appears to know about Gumball and Penny, but it just stays there. Unlike Nicole, in The Meddler, Richard is very laid back and really helps his case. But he actually is shown helping in episodes like The Date, where an entire segment of the episode is dedicated to Gumball and Richard. But here, Richard is only shown to be a bystander who either doesn't know or doesn't care about his son's love. So if we're counting continuity, we must count that against Richard. He ends up crying to himself while Penny enters the house through a ladder, and I guess we're not supposed to think about how this all works.
I came to
Have you been crying?
No, I just have really sweaty eyes. Wait, that's disgusting. Yeah, I was crying.
I really do want to emphasize that this is not a sappy love story. This does have a healthy dose of comedy. So Gumball convinces Penny to break out of her shell, and this actually does end up working. Also, because her parents aren't naive and stupid, okay, not as naive and stupid as usual, they also know what's going on. Everything about this particular scene works. The lighting was very good, and every word used was necessary. This is your classic misunderstanding plot, mind you, because as soon as Penny breaks out of her shell, Gumball cannot immediately put into words how he feels, which ends up with Penny assuming that this means that her coming out of the shell wasn't the best idea. Now, I believe this was a great move by the staff because Gumball is not exactly Romeo, but at the same time, you don't want to water down this idea. So you don't focus on the fact that Gumball is unlucky, you don't focus on the fact that Gumball is arrogant, you don't focus on the fact that Gumball can be annoying, you focus on the fact that Gumball is a kid, and a kid who doesn't really know too much about what he's diving into. Penny, on the other hand, runs away, and Gumball finally finds the words. Richard does that running gag I mentioned earlier, and let's switch over to the matchmaker. So Gumball decides to use a life or death situation to somewhat forge this maybe crush. Carrie, on the other hand, out of jealousy, wants to ruin Gumball's efforts. In the episode The Flower, we actually saw that jealousy can manifest itself inside anyone, including Carrie. I wonder why they didn't reference it here. Gumball decides to tell Darwin that he should expose himself, and by expose himself, he means being honest and sharing secrets to show his insecurities. Now, it's really important that Carrie is next to Terry for this to work. He goes over saying a lot of things and blushing. I don't want to forget to mention this, but this episode has a lot of blushing. The shell, on the other hand, not too much, if at all. Then again, in the party, Gumball turned fully red when his dad implied that he knew about everything. He walks in kind of funny, and we see that although Terry thinks the situation was weird, Carrie is actually not taking the news the best. And honestly, can you blame her? In fact, in the next scene, they address just that.
We secretly marry them online and hope that Terry's love will grow over time.
Great plan.
Thank you.
If C stands for seriously stupid.
That's not how you spell serious, so that doesn't even work. And we're not at Plan S yet, so shh. That starts with an S.
It's something about this scene that's missing that early Gumball charm. I'm not too sure what it is, but I feel like if they told this same joke in the style of an earlier episode, it would have hit home better. But anyway, Carrie is disappointed in herself because she has a morality in this episode. In some episodes she does, in some episodes she doesn't, but she's a kid, and I think that's not the worst thing in the world to be a wild card. She's disappointed in herself for obstructing true love. She wouldn't want someone else to do that to her if she was in Terry's position. Gumball drops the act that he had throughout a lot of this episode and actually shows care for the situation. This scene is like the arguing scene in The Shell, where it's very integral to the story. I really do enjoy the care they're putting into giving each character motivation. It really does make me engrossed in the story and wanting to see more. Carrie shows that she actually does have a way to make them fall in love. Glad to know that she had this information this entire time. The way it's made is very symbolic. A part of him, a part of her, in terms of Darwin and Terry, and a tear of someone who loves him. Wow, did that pot of potion make it so that the woman has to cry for the man? This potion was created by a man, wasn't it?
Wait, what are you doing?
Well, I thought it would be more romantic than putting it in their drinks when they're not looking.
Wow, first ecstasy, now roofies? What's next? Viagra? That's pretty hard to do. So we get a few pretty funny jokes, funnier than mine at least, and we learn something integral.
Oh, that's not a photo of Terry, it's of Carrie, but she doesn't show up on film.
What?
Yeah, she used to be the girl in my dreams.
Yeah, that was never Terry in the first place. Great twist. I know in this review it's been spoiled since the introduction, but watching this for the first time, this could have really taken you by surprise. I mean, Darwin and Terry, that could have been girl number 5 for him. It's quite the twist. Now let's go back over to the shell and finish it off. Coming back over to the shell, we're in the final stretch. Gumball decides to chase after Penny. She turns into the emotion she feels like, whether it's embarrassment or anger or anything in between really. Gumball gets another chance, but is out of breath. Penny takes out her newly found frustrations on this car. Jackie, this female here, tells Harold to do something which is weird. He was never depicted to be brave, and I would think that she knows this. She pretty much insults Penny, but she won't be the only one. Her own father comes into the picture. Oh wow, so you do have a car. Nice to know that you have one. Next time when you're worried sick about your daughter at night, you might want to use it. But of course, like Jackie, he does nothing but insult Penny, who in all fairness, doesn't look her best, but that's only because of her current emotion at the moment. Gumball does stand up to Patrick again, but in a more serious way, and he takes it quite well for a child scolding an adult for how he parents his own daughter. But everything he says is right, despite it being uncomfortably brief. His intentions are also right, but I'll assume you know that, and that's obvious. Now, the following is probably one of my favorite sequences of the series. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but I'm sure everyone here probably wants me to talk about... Is it pornography? Or is it an orange being peeled, for lack of a better word? Well, like my pizza baby scenes like this all depends on your mind frame about the subject. I'm sure both answers are technically correct. They get to a point where Gumball becomes a ball of weight on Penny, and she really can't fly up. So Gumball has to make her small by making her feel small and insignificant in the process. Gumball manages to not get killed, but Penny goes into the forest where she believes she belongs. Her dad tells Gumball to go get her, because if he went to get her, he'd drive home, wait at the front door for her, waiting for her to come back, and I'm not letting that go. Also, the bugs and Exterminator. Insert crappy Nickelodeon live-action Dan Snyder laugh track here. Gumball goes looking for Penny, and I have to give the sound design huge props. It's well due.
You know, I was trying to protect you back there.
Yes, I know.
And you know why?
Yes, I know why. But just look at me. What will you think when people laugh at us?
No offense, but you kinda look like a big coconut with holes in it before.
It does its job by keeping in the background, but if you listen to it throughout this entire show, it's been one of a kind, and truly elevates this episode to new heights. Penny shows more of her insecurity, which in other episodes was much more of a Gumball thing to do. Whether insecurity or ignorance, Gumball quite often didn't sync with Penny until now. I do like how it took Penny coming out of her shell for Gumball to actually have the guts to come out of his shell, metaphorically. I like how Gumball handles the situation perfectly. I'm also gonna contradict a tiny bit, but I also like how the writers dropped the comedy from the beginning to end. In the beginning, we got a lot of comedies, a lot of jokes being thrown, and we get less and less as the story progresses until the end. And here towards the end, we get less comedy, but the story really wouldn't benefit from it, and it's not as important. All of this is the true essence of why The Amazing World of Gumball is one of my favorite series of all time.
But do you really think you could love?
That's not what you are. It's just how you feel. And this is how I feel.
I couldn't do it justice. Everything from the space element coming back, to subtly having the blessings of both families, to showing all of the other emotions in this metaphoric rush of different emotions. Everything about this has been done masterfully. The only pick I have is not towards the scene, but Richard. Like I said, he doesn't really do too much except play the role of explaining the obvious. I think the writer should have put more faith in the audience by not having a slightly comedic ending. We get that two main characters kiss. I know this is not a comedic ending, but nonetheless, this is The Shell, a wonderful episode, and let's go over and finish The Matchmaker. Now let's go back over to The Matchmaker. We have Gumball call Carrie in a way that she was called in a previous episode, which then brings the question of how come that continuity is brought over, but not many other things. Gumball lets Carrie know that Darwin was really into her, not Terry, and that love potion was never really meant to be. This is explained with how Carrie never shows up in photos. That same photo Gumball jammed into Carrie's face earlier, if she only looked and looked closely, maybe this all would have been solved. As you can see, this is also a misunderstanding plot. So they go into montage to break the potion. Apparently this potion can't be broken with another potion. Good thing Gumball had good luck in this episode, or this would have been a lot darker. So they try marriage and cheating and whatever they can think of to split the two magically bound lovebirds, and nothing works works because I think Carrie forgot that this is a magic spell, not a regular relationship. But since this episode was already so good, I wouldn't hold it past this. They have a really funny joke with Richard before Terry approaches Darwin. Apparently she has cooties, which, okay.
Rachel, Carrie, Gumbo, Okay, what's up with you guys? Penny, Susie, Alex Balloon Knot, Chris Morris. All right, enough.
He's also been with Jamie and nearly kissed Masami. It's those little things like that that really reward you of being a fan of the show. We get a shot of Darwin's teeth, but then Terry, surprise surprise, doesn't care. And we actually see the potion through her perspective. It doesn't change her neural pathways so that she's in love with Darwin as if it was a natural thing. It actually shows Darwin in a portrayal that she would want. I think that's also very important to think about because it shows that Terry is most likely not in love with Darwin. It also leaves you to speculate what Darwin could be seeing. For all we know, Terry could be a ghost. Terry could have emo hair. Terry could be Carrie. I fully stand by that, but no more stalling. Time to show you all what you've all been waiting ever so patiently for.
Hey, so would you like to go out somewhere sometime and do something? Or we could go somewhere else sometime and do some other thing.
They both sound great.
And that's why a lot of people love The Matchmaker. Darwin and Carrie get their long awaited time together. Although this is not for everyone, and it does seem like it falls dangerously close to the fan service side of things, I do appreciate that the show would take that risk because a lot of fans, like myself, do love this episode. If I may make a comparison, take a look at Mystery Girl. When Clarence and Bella met, they were very shy, but they hit it off great. I guess that's just my soft spot for scenes like this. They cleverly saved this scene for the end, which makes all of the build-up so worth it, and unlike in The Shell, they do end on a joke here, but it isn't so invasive. Both of these episodes are fantastic, and deal with the concept of love in a way that can be entertained by kids and people that are older. Just like with Guns, romance is a touchy subject for me. Yes, I would love more than that, but I'm also a 19-year-old. I'm sure my siblings couldn't care less. I'm sure anime is a goldmine for stuff like this. Overall, if I had to choose, it would be very hard. On one hand, the show was a lot more comedic, and the comedy really hit home. The climax was very entertaining, showed better character dynamic, had funnier adult humor, and great visuals. But on the other hand, The Matchmaker was a lot more deep, cut out unnecessary side characters, had a great opening, and a fantastic closing, and I was waiting for this for a long time. So if I think I had to choose, I would go with The Matchmaker, but by a small sliver. Only because of my Darwin and Carrie bias, but both episodes are good in their own right. I really hope you enjoyed these double verses because my next big project will be coming out very soon. Let's just say that it was long overdue. But tell me what you guys think of this in the comments below. Do you like one episode but not the other? Do you like both? Do you like none? Do you think it was too sappy? And also make sure to follow me at The Alpha J Show. I have tons of interactive content, memes, and channel updates so you'll feel like a part of the community. Also, if you haven't joined my Discord, make sure to. A lot of it is just talking about episodes like this. Tons of my fellow reviewing buddies are there as well. It's shows like Gumball, after all, that made me want to review animation. It's shows like Gumball that give me a reason to watch animation still. So thank you for hearing me out on the last verses, and thank you for hearing me out on this, because now I want to go back and retell my first review, going back to where it all began, and also make it less of a chore to listen to. Consider these next extra discussions my retake on said material in a more condensed way. If you really like this video, I highly suggest my first verses, which I'm glad got so much love, or the playlist in general. Binge away. Make sure to subscribe and feel free to consider my Patreon. As always, I hope your time is well spent, and Alpha